Welcome you all. This video, the topic is Java Hibernate Part 2, that is the inheritance. When you speak about the inheritance with the Hibernate, we have to speak about at least two to three entity classes. That means we are speaking about two to three tables in the database. Assuming, suppose we are having the entity class like employee entity class, permanent employee and contract employee or the child of employee entity class. So the parent is employee entity and the child are the two classes. And the fields which are specified is given there. Now ID, first name and last name is common to both the permanent employee and the contract employee. Permanent employee receives salary and they will have a department. Contract employee receives daily wage and the contract period. Both the classes will get the common attributes of ID, first name and last name from the employee entity class. In this scenario, you have to use the Hibernate. Previously in the part 1 of Hibernate, we had used only the employee entity class with @entity annotation, and we saved the object of entity class as the row in the database table. Now this time we are having the parent and child class. So how the table will be created in the database? Will it be a single table? Will it be three separate tables? If it is a three separate table, what happened to the common attributes like ID, first name and last name? Will it be repeated in the second table and the third table? Or the second table and third table will only have ID value as a foreign key and they will refer the first name and last name with the help of the ID value. So there are three ways I had said. One, the table can be a single table for all the three classes. Two, there might be three tables and all the fields will be redundant. Three, there might be three tables, but only the foreign key will be redundant and other fields will be referred by the foreign key. So all these three ways we can inherit, and we can also inherit these three ways in XML based way and annotation based way on your Java. That means three types of inheritance which is possible to code in two ways. One is XML based way, another one is annotation based way. And we are now going with annotation based way, which is the better one. And as I said, there is three inheritance. So let me get into the program. Yesterday, we had created the JFSD Hibernate. In this part 1 of Hibernate, we are having the pom.xml with the dependencies. No change in the dependency we already added. So nothing to work with the pom.xml. And there are three more files in the part 1 of Hibernate. One is the main file where the logic is there to insert, delete, or the CRUD operations. Then the employee entity class, only one entity class is there in the part 1. And then the configuration file for the database connection. Now, we have to go with the inheritance method today. That means we have to have three classes now, includes employee, permanent employee and contract employee. Let me to create two more classes now. Under the package, which we already had, just create the class permanent employee. Permanent employee extends employee because it's a child class of employee. And then it will have the fields like double salary and then string department. For these two fields, we need the setter and getter methods. Now, since we are using the Hibernate, we have to write at entity annotation from Java X persistence package. Then only this particular class will be related to the database. Then next, do we have any primary key here? No. Salary and department is not a primary key. That's it. Do we want to change the table name? If required, we can use at table annotation. That depends on the inheritance we are going to use. Let me have up to this now. Now let me to create one more class. Contract employee. This is also a child class of employee. And this class having the field double daily salary int contract year. Now to have the setter and getter as usual, go to source and generate getter and setter, select all and then click on generate. So setter getter method done. We have to make this class as entity. And then the column name seems to be big. I don't want such big column name. So I can have the alternate name for it. When you want to do that, you have to use column annotation and the name for the column in the database. Otherwise, it will create a column name in the same name of the field name. Just I'm giving daily DYSAL as the column name. And similarly for the second one, this is contract cont YR contract here. So this is the column name which will create in the database table because we changed that. Now, what type of inheritance we are going to use? We are having three classes, one parent and two child class. So what type of inheritance we will be using now? The first method is the single table based inheritance. So to do that, we have to go to the employee table. And here, when we go for the single table, okay, all the three classes are entering the data in a single table. And column names might be the first class is having three column name, the second class two, and the third class two. So 3 plus 2 plus 2, 7 columns will be in the single table. All the three classes are entering the data into the same table. In that sense, suppose a second table is inserting the data, it might insert the three fields of the parent class and two fields of its own class. So another two fields will be null. Similarly, the third class will enter 3 plus and its own 2 field. The second class fields will be null. And also we need to identify the data. The data need to be identified from which class it is being entered. For that identification purpose, suppose there are 10 rows in a database table. You want to identify this row, this particular row is being entered by the class 2 or class 3. For that identification purpose, we need a special column, and we can name that column like type type or any other name also fine. And then we should enter some string value there like class 2, class 3. If type class 2, then it is from class 2. If type class 3, then it is from class 3. Like that we can classify the row. Which are the rows from class 2, which are the rows from class 3. This particular key term, we will say it as discriminator column. There are two things, discriminator column and discriminator value. The column name should be set with the annotation called discriminator column. And inside the discriminator column, you should say the name of the column, which can be anything. I'm giving it as type, and the data type of that column. So that should be said as discriminator type equal to I think I had used double equal to discriminator type dot string. The column name is type and the data type for that column is string. Then the value of that discriminator column can be said as discriminator value. Then you have to specify the value for that in the value attribute. Suppose the data is being entered by the first class, then you can say it as employee. When the data is being entered with the second class, that is permanent employee class, we can say that as permanent employee. And similarly, the third class, contract employee. So now we are having single column but three different values according to the table which is inserting. The column value will get changed. Now we need to specify the inheritance type. There is three types of inheritance, and we are going with the single table way. Okay, that need to be specified in one of the classes. That should be a parent class. So here we should go with the annotation called inheritance. Inheritance. Inside that, like how we are going for the generated value, similarly, strategy equal to inheritance type dot, you can able to see single table. Okay, single table inheritance. Now we specify the inheritance type and the discriminator column name, discriminator column data type, and correspondingly the discriminator column value for all the three classes. Now our inheritance is ready. Since it is a single table, The table name is going to be employee only. The name of the table will be in the base class name, and E will be small. So now we have to go for the logic where we can insert the things. Previously, we had created this app.java file with some crude operations and HCQL, Hibernate criteria based query language. So now I don't want Hibernate criteria based query language. I will comment that. I want the insertion operation to be done. Now this particular insertion will insert from E1. Okay. That means employee table base class. I will have another insertion that is from permanent employee E2. Now for E2, I can set the value. You can able to see here when I give E2 dot, I can able to access the base class first name, last name ID as well as department and salary, 5 fields. So let me to go with the ID value first. That means set ID. Then the ID is going to be, but actually the ID is auto-generated one, right? So we will go with set first name, FN, and that first name is going to be JFSD class. And we will go to the second, the last name, E2 dot set last name. Hibernate. So first name and last name is being set. Then E2 dot salary will be set to some 50,000, and E2 dot department is set to CSC. Now the E2 object is been ready. We have to use actually set salary and set department. Now the E2 object is ready. Now we have to store the E2 object, E2 dot save. We can use, session, we have to use session dot s dot save, and then we can pass the object E2. There is another method to save, s dot persist. We can pass the object E2. You can use any one of the method here. I will use save now. Then, since it is saving, I want the transaction to be begin and commit. Once it is committed, it will automatically end. Let me to have the printing statement here. Permanent data. Permanent employee data inserted. And we will have one more employee, that is the contract employee. He is E3, the object is. Then E3 dot, similarly I have to set the values. So I will just copy here. I will use E3 to set the values. Let the name be contract employee, and class 3 is the last name. Then E3 dot set daily salary 1000, E3 dot set contract year 1. Now we can save it as dot save, the session object dot save. We have to pass the object of E3 here. Then once again begin the transaction. Commit it. And finally the printing statement for contract employee. Now we had inserted the data from all the 3 classes, but the data need to be inserted in single table with discriminator type and value. Let me see what is the discriminator column name, how the values has been assigned, how it is working. Already my database is connected. I'll just use my database. I will give show tables. Actually, there is no table here in the name of employee. So I will create one table now. By running this program, just right click it, run as Java application. We are getting some errors. Let me check it. Okay. It is saying that the error is from mapping, right? Let me go to the mapping Hibernate configuration file. See, in the Hibernate configuration file, actually mapping session is been missing. So we have to write the mapping. You go to the PPT and you can able to see 3 mapping lines here. I will show that to you. See, the first mapping line is to map the class called com.klu.hibernate.employee. That is the base class. This is the one which we used last time. Okay. And furthermore, 2 more mapping classes, that is permanent employee and contract employee. Let me to save it and I will try rerunning this. Could not load the requested class com.klu.hibernate.employee. Okay. Once again, the package name should be JFSD Hibernate. Because we are using the package name in that way. Let me try once again. Now you can able to see employee data inserted, permanent employee data inserted, contract employee data inserted. So just go to the database tables. Now you give show tables. You can able to see employee table here. Now just run the employee table and see what are the values in been inserted. You can able to see the type column here. Okay. In this type column, you can able to see employee, and contract employee. So 3 different values have been inserted. and few fields are null as we discussed earlier. Now we come to know which one is being inserted which by its class. For example, 8 ID number 8 is being inserted by the employee class. So this is the way to identify this. Now the first type of inheritance is being done. The next two type of inheritance is single, like each class will have one table. Okay. Here also we will change in the PPT. SD. Right. So there are three types of inheritance. One is single table inheritance, done. The second way is table per class. And the third way is the joint one. Now we will go with table per class. That means this time we don't want any discriminator column type and discriminator value, because every table is going to have every class is going to have its own table, right? Only the common fields are going to repeat in this. So how to repeat? What are all the common fields to repeat? This too we have to see in the code. We will go to the code. In the employee class, first I will remove the discriminator column and the value because it is not required. And second, in the inheritance, I will change the type of the inheritance to table per class. Then this particular base class is been done with. Go to the permanent employee, remove the discriminator value. Now we have to say what is the table name of the second table. If we are not saying that, the table name will be created in the name of the class, that is permanent employee. If it is okay, then just leave it with that. Let me leave this one. And the second one, we have to say attribute overrides. You can able to see attribute override and overrides. We have to say first attributes overrides, then open the parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, open the dictionary bracket, because it will take the set of values, and within the dictionary bracket give one enter. Now use the attribute override annotation, which will have the name and the column. The column is nothing but you have to specify the column name of the current table to replicate the data. Just to use the column annotation to rename that. You can say that is ID permanent employee PE. So this is the new column name ID PE, and which refers the old column ID in the base table. Similarly, we can repeat the other columns as well. Attribute override. Just we will have the first name for this, FN, then column, the name of the first name column in this table. We can say first name permanent employee. One more field is there, last name. Just I don't want to do all the fields. I will go with two fields now. Similarly, I will copy this one to the contract employee, and I will first remove the discriminator type value as well here. Now I want to change the table name of the contract employee too. In that case, I can use just annotation table, and the name of the table is cont underscore EMP. So this is the name, the table which will be created. Let me try this, but before trying this, we have to delete the table which we are already having. Just I will go to my database, I will use drop table employee, and I will drop the table. And now I will try with the newer one. Before that, I have to change this column name as well because this is for contract employee. So C and first name of contract employee C. Right now, just I'm removing the semicolon for the table annotation because annotations will not have semicolon. So the error is being gone. Now I will go to my app.java. The same values which I'm trying to insert, employee 1, 2, 3. Let me to try now. You can able to see all the statements are printed here. So we will check the database table. We will give show tables first. We can able to see 3 tables in the name, like 2 tables in the class name and 1 table with a modified name that we have used. Now we will go and see the employee table. We can able to see only 1 record there. And if we go and see permanent employee table, you can able to see the ID and first name and last name of the base class with the current value of the permanent employee. Think about it. We had used only 2 attributes match, 2 attributes which are matching in our code. Like here you can able to see attributes overrides and attributes override. Only we are overriding 2 things, but we are getting 3 values over there. Now let me to check with contract employee 2, and also the field names is being matching with the base class field name. I think we have changed the table name, so contract on EMP. Now we are getting the values. Again, you can able to see the ID, FN and LN value, which is from the base class with the new values which you had created. Now we will go to our code and we will try to modify this in the permanent employee or contract employee will modify. Here I will use ID CE contract employee and first name of contract employee. Here I will just use ID and first name. Let me see what is happening now. Once I reinsert the values again, once again I'm running the things. Let me run the table command once again to display it. You are getting the ID value once again. ID, first name and last name. Let me to try to remove this also. Attributes override. Let me see what is happening now by adding one more data to the table. Once again, we are getting. That means with the inheritance type of the base class, you are getting the values over here. Let me check the base class also once. You can able to see 9, 12 and 15 in the base class as the ID. Here in contract employee, there is no such values. Actually, that 9, 12 and 15 is being entered by the E1 object. And this contract employee is being entered by the E3 object. Similarly, you can able to find the values in permanent employee table, which is entered by the E2. So as of now, we'll go to our code and the regular one for using the attribute override is the name corresponds to the column name of the base and the column corresponds to the column name which you want to name it in the current table. But without this, actually the attribute is being overriding. Just I'm removing this. Maybe the packages we have used is making that. So I'm removing that from contract employee as well as permanent employee. And then in the employee table, just I will have inheritance strategy equal to inheritance type table per class. Only this. Now, let me to run the application once again. I hope so it will work fine. For the fourth data insertion, yes. Once again, you run this permanent employee table. You could able to see the fourth data has been inserted. Now, in the second way of inheritance, we are having three different tables for each classes. That means one table for each class. We are having three tables and three classes. And the base class properties is being duplicated in each of the table. Now, we have to reduce the space little bit. I don't want to duplicate all the values from the base class. I want to duplicate only the ID value from the base class for the remaining child class tables. And the data need to be stored in the base class only, the remaining two fields. In that case, I have to go for the third way of annotation, that is inheritance, joined inheritance. Now, to do that, we will go to our code. We will go to our employee class. Here, Change the inheritance type as dot joint. Now we will go to our child classes and we will have one more new annotation here. Without the annotation, we will first try. If it is not working, then we will go with the annotation in the child classes. Only annotation which I had changed was the inheritance type as joint. Now I will go to the database table and I will drop the tables which I already created. I think those tables are deleted. Yes. Now I will go to my Eclipse and I will run the application. Let me check what is happening now. Three data I'm inserting and I'm using the joint. Okay. I'm using the joint as a strategy for the inheritance. Now I will check the database, what is happened. You can able to see three tables again created. Let me check the third table value. Exactly. What is required is only to duplicate the primary key value of the base table and we are duplicating that. And similarly, if you check the employee table, one values be inserted from E1, E2, E3. That means three classes inserts one value. Now we will check the employee table. You could able to see three values are inserted in the employee table. In the last scenario, only one value is inserted in the employee table. Okay, but now three values because the common field values are coming to the employee table and only the primary key value is duplicated there to map it. Let me check the contract employee. It should have only one row there. Okay. Exactly. This ID number 23 is being mapped with the employee table 23. This 21 is from the first class and 22 is from the permanent employee class and 23 is from the contract employee class. Right? This is how to work with the inheritance. Very simply, by changing the inheritance type, you could able to implement the last two inheritance, that is table per class and joint inheritance. I am not making any annotations in the child class. For the first inheritance, actually we had gone with discriminator type and discriminator value for identifying the corresponding class which inserted the value in the table. For that purpose, I had annotated the child class as well. For the remaining two annotations, inheritance based annotations, I had just gone with the base class annotations. So it is working fine. And I hope so you had understood the inheritance concepts and you had practiced with me parallelly as well. I had given you the XML file which is required for the configuration and the main file setup which is similar one from the part one of Hibernate, and the form.xml dependency is also similar one, the form.xml, like the first part of the Hibernate. So these two main file setup and form.xml dependencies are similar to your first part of the Hibernate. So thank you all.